All right, so today we're talking business models. Up to this point, just to catch you up, Connor is new as well, and so if you want to, tell us about yourself.
So it's not Connor, it's Honor.
Sorry, my bad.
So my name's Honor. It's spelled weird, but it's Honor. I attend the University of New Haven. We don't really have an entrepreneurship club. We have a marketing club, but we just watch TED Talks all day. So it's not really much. I do have a startup. I emailed you about that. I have another startup that I lost a lot of money to. But we got a startup now that's actually going to launch next year. It's a campus app for the universities. Allows for students to communicate and have fun with each other. But it's actually more than that to the university. It's more for ways for them to communicate with you. It's very strange. I can't really explain it. I sent you some links. But if you guys want to know more, please talk to me after. We're still looking for co-founders. Anyone that's taking CS50 or CS2223 will gladly drop you in.
Absolutely. And we have a pitch day coming up in a couple weeks, so and we'll be ready to get on the pitches, and so everyone is going to work on pitching their own ideas, and that's an opportunity for you to pitch as well, and for everyone to pitch to introduce your idea to other people and find co-founders. On the tables, there's candy or / food or whatever. Like rotate those around because I know some people prefer M&Ms and M&Ms are another table or whatever. So cool. And then so today we're covering business models, sort of to run through. So to run through sort of how we got here, like we originally talked about. So we really started from scratch. We talked about what is entrepreneurship, then we talked about how you look for entrepreneurial opportunities, problems, and issues, how you come up with solutions and create value, how you craft a customer experience. And now we're going to turn to the other side of that equation and talk about how you create a sustainable business off of that. We start on purpose with the product side. I don't know if you all read the article that I sent around earlier today, but that article is actually really important for articulating the difference between a product and a business. You can have an exceptional product and a terrible business. Those exist in the world. Snapchat, for instance, is an example of that. Like Snapchat is an excellent product, and they just haven't figured out how to monetize it in an effective way. Twitter used to be like that when they figured it out. But there are a bunch of examples of that. It's really, really downright impossible to have an excellent business without a good product. So that's why we started talking about product first. Like that is the first top priority. And then if you have a good product, you can probably craft a good business model around that. And that's what we're moving into here. So we're going to cover the fundamentals. We're going to start with a lemonade stand and then work up to Google. And then we're going to start with walking you through a couple different business models so that you can become more familiar with that and think about which one you want to apply to your own principle. And then we're going to talk about Claire's idea called Doggy Bag, and we'll get into that. And then we'll brainstorm and workshop that one all together. And then the assignment coming out of this meeting for next meeting is to create 2 different business models for the one value proposition that you want to pursue. So up until this point, you probably had 2 value propositions that you were thinking about doing that addressed 2 different issues. You thought about delivery mechanisms for those 2. Then you thought about customer experiences for that. Now you want to create your ideal business model for that. And then next week, we're going to workshop those business models. So it's okay if it's a little bit rough this week, and we'll get really into it next week. Here's an overview of where we're headed. As I said, next week we're going to make the business models all together as a group. Then we're going to cover pitching. Pitching is a really important entrepreneurial skill that will serve you really well all the way through. And even if you don't keep up with entrepreneurship, learning how to speak in front of people is a really important thing as well. Then we'll have our first pitch day, which will be the opportunity for you to give your first 5-minute pitch and get co-founders after that. And then we're going to start working on your MVP and then get you established with a to-do list that you're going to knock out over winter break so that next semester we can really hit the ground running and building your ventures. It's going to be really exciting. Okay, so a business model is answering the question of how do you make money? And all businesses really need that to work. This is one of the first questions that Y Combinator, the best accelerator in the world, will ask you when you walk in for an interview. It is that simple and that key. And it is actually a question that they really care about how you answer it. A lot of people will have excellent businesses and will walk into Y Combinator and not be able to answer the simple question of how they make money. For those who don't know, Y Combinator is a place where Airbnb, Dropbox, all of them walked in and gave their first pitch there. So this is a really, really key question to be able to answer succinctly for your business, and it's a lot more complicated than it sounds initially. Fundamentally, all businesses, it has to cost you less to make whatever your product is than what people are willing to pay for it. It has to work on a unit economic scale. That means for one good sold, It has to cost you less to make it than for someone else to buy it. If you can't get that fundamental fact to work out for you, you need to reframe your business model and come up with a better way to deliver your product. So the big equation for all businesses right here, for those of you, I don't know if you're in like micro right now or econ or anything like that, this is about as wonky as we'll get. But profit equals revenue, which is price times the quantity of goods sold, minus your costs. Your costs can be divided between fixed costs, which are sort of the cost of running your business. It's like the rent for running the place. That doesn't change based on how many you make. It does not change based on quantity. And then variable costs is the costs that will change based on quantity. So it will rise as you produce more goods. And then, so quantity remains the same. All of business strategy comes to maximizing this formula. To make a better business, when all of you go off and do your consulting interviews, eventually someday they're gonna give you a case. And you really have like a couple of options. They'll say, how does this business make more money? Is fundamentally what they're gonna ask. The only way that a business makes more money is if this goes up. Ways to make this go up are to make revenue go up and this go down, okay? And the only ways to make revenue go up are to either raise your prices or sell more goods or sell goods to more people or reduce costs. Those are the only options. When you walk into a business meeting, whatever you do should be all associated around adjusting those variables. It's very simple, actually, when you break it down to that level. So we're gonna talk about building a business model that sort of works up to that point. The key part at this stage of your venture is to think about unit economics. It is not starting to think about what is it gonna look like when we have 20 employees, we have to move to New York, we have to rent get a WeWork and all that stuff. That's not what you care about. What you care about right now is how do I make one product cheaper than someone else is willing to pay for it? And is there a path to that working out? So that really gets down to this number, which is gross margin, which is probably the most important metric for businesses to really care about. And that is revenue minus the cost of goods sold divided by your revenue again. This number has to be less than 1, and it's hopefully greater than 0. When you hear people talk about like what's your margin, and they'll say, oh, we made 150% margin, whatever that is, that's not gross margin. That's not the same thing. What really matters here is gross margin. Cost of goods sold. So revenue is just the total income that a business is going to have. The cost of goods sold is the direct cost to make a single product. It is not the marketing costs. It's not the salaries of all the employees that you need to pay to do it. It's not even shipping costs. It's just like the cost for making it. When we do the lemonade stand example, cost of goods sold is the lemons, the water, and the cups. Like that's really what's going to work out to. It's not how much you pay the little kids to stand out there and market it. So that's really key. You don't have to be profitable at first, and you really shouldn't be. This is sort of a big thing. Initially, when we talked about that last week, we talked about do things that don't scale. This is one of those moments where you do things that don't scale. You're not going to be profitable on your first day. You might not even be profitable in your first year. You might not even be profitable for a really long time. Like Uber is not even profitable. When you read an article about companies raising money, it's because they are planning to spend more money than they have coming in the door, taking on a loss in order to grow. And that's what you're going to be doing as a startup for a long time. So what you really care about is just this unit by unit metric, not the whole cost of running your business. Does that kind of make sense? I hope I'm not confusing you all by thinking about that, but it'll make more sense once we move on to the examples. And the best way to know sort of the way a business works is to follow the money. And it's, okay, I have to pay, as the entrepreneur, I have to pay X amount of dollars to have this good made or to make this product, and then I sell it to so-and-so for this much money in return. That money comes back to me. If you can make sure that you know every single way that a dollar changes hands with your business, then you can understand the business model very thoroughly, and that's really key. Okay, another thing that you read about in that article was a really cool principle that I call the hierarchy of earning profit. This guy, Morgan Housel, is a really great investor and very, very good writer as well. A fun thing for like learning more about entrepreneurship is follow people on Twitter. He's really great on Twitter, and then like look on his Twitter and find who he follows, and then follow all of those people, and then find who they follow, and then follow all of those people, and you'll start building a web of what the top people in entrepreneurship are reading, and that'll really help you get more familiar with the language that's going around. So this is the hierarchy. Notice where profit is. It's the most difficult part of a business. As it's sort of you move down the funnel, this is easier to do, and this becomes more difficult to do, and later stage in your business. So when you talk about profit, like don't make that your number one priority. Number one priority needs to be solving a problem, okay? then you make it more efficient, then someone else can do it themselves at a lower price than competitors, done as well as competitors, price equal or lower, and then you keep improving the customer experience, and then you start thinking about profit. Anyway, I thought that was a really great description that you had. Okay, last boring slide before we get into case studies. Key questions for answering this business model are super basic, but it's really important that you're able to ask these and answer these succinctly in everything that you do. What do you sell? Knowing exactly what the product is. Like, what does Google sell? Does anyone know what Google sells?
Ads.
Yes, they sell ads, data, like to that. But what is the normal user experience? We don't experience Google selling anything. Like, we think it's free. We use their Gmail for free. It's good to be able to know that right off the top. To whom do you sell it? So who's Google's customer?
Companies.
Yes, other companies, not people. That's sort of a key distinction to know who they're servicing. And then how do they sell it? How do they pay you? This is where we get into subscription models or versus one-time payments. Maybe you buy it at a store and you have to sell through a distributor. Maybe you buy it on credit or like whatever it might be. There's this is also an additional important question. How much do you sell it for? That's the price. It has to be greater than the cost again. How much does it cost for you to make just one? And then how much does it cost for you to market and distribute it? We're gonna get into that later. How much does your space and equipment cost? Same sort of thing, we'll get into that later as well. And how much does the workforce cost? Okay, now we're gonna go into the basics. Okay, for a lemonade stand, for all these examples we're gonna do just revenue and costs, and then bonus points is if you can tell me if it's a cost of goods sold, which would be a variable cost, or if it's a fixed cost. Okay, so who wants to go for lemonade, either lemonade stand revenue or costs? Who's got the first example? Oh, I just can't do it for us, yeah. Yes,
Like a fixed cost is like the actual like stand.
the stand? Yes. There we go. Okay. Stand, and that's fixed. Okay. Okay. Someone else. Yes.
Could you say what the revenue is?
Yeah, what is the revenue?
People who just buy glass of lemonade.
Okay, yeah.
And they give you
So it's like customers come to stand and pay cash or credit? Cash, probably, at this one. That's an important question. Like, seriously, in the early days of Verb, we were trying to sell energy bars. Everyone came up to us being like, do you take card? And we were like, oh, no, we didn't even think of that. And then, like, we went back and got a square reader, and then we started making more money in the first days. So, like, you need to, like, think through those stupid things that you think would, of course, make sense. But, yeah. Other ways. Other costs.
Employees' salaries are fixed costs.
Salaries, okay. You do have to pay the kids in the picture, I guess, or maybe they own it themselves. Tigger?
Because according to the picture at least, they're trying to reuse their glasses. A fixed cost could be the actual glasses.
The glasses, yeah.
the lemons.
The lemons, yes.
Variable cost.
Variable cost. That would be the COGS. Cost of goods sold. So, actually this would probably be two. And if you, we'll assume they don't reuse it just because it's easier right there. But what we've covered so far, these two do not get factored into gross margin, and these two do. Does that kind of make sense? Do people understand that distinction? If you don't, that's fine. It's just, it's the, for price of selling one good. That's sort of what matters most to the scalability of this business. What else? Yes?
Water.
Water,
Yeah.
yeah? Water, and that's a cog. Anybody else? Yes. Sugar. There you go. Okay. What if this lemonade stand wanted to like really get its name out there? Advertising, yes. And is that a cog? Is advertising a cost of goods sold? No. That is big stuff. Anybody else? Okay, has anyone played the game Lemonade Tycoon by chance? Do you remember that on your like iPad or iPhone? I'm serious. Make Lemonade Tycoon and then game yourself to see how quickly you can make $100,000 on Lemonade Tycoon. It'll actually help you think about a business. I'm serious. It's a stupid, simple game that's just like really janky. It was one of the first like iPad games or whatever that came out. And but it will teach you how to think about, okay, I want to invest in this fixed cost to hopefully boost my reach, or I want to pay more to be in a more populated area, or like I want to skimp more on my product so that more people will, or my costs will go down. And like those types of things are actually really important to think about at the Lemonade stand level, because they will be important sort of as you scale. Okay. Now here's profit and loss written out. A P&L is the fundamental like accounting piece of a business. This is the most important sort of part of it. And this is for this fictional Lively Lemonade LLC. And so they had $250 in total revenue. Their COGS, which is what we just talked about, was $30. So their gross profit, what we talked about, was $220. So does anyone want to help me calculate their gross margin? Does anyone remember it?
Revenue minus cost of goods divided by revenue.
Yes. Fantastic. Can anyone do that really quick? I'm just curious what the margins are. 88%. If any one of you can make this profitable of a business, you should stay in Lemonade stands for the rest of your life. I'm serious, that's insane. That gross margin is really, really high. I did not make these numbers. I got them from Google Images, but those are unrealistically high numbers. Might have worked, I guess, for neighborhood. Hopefully that they wouldn't look like that at scale, but that's pretty cool. Okay, and then you can see how they broke down. These are all their fixed costs, like what we were talking about there. I don't know why they had a $20 loan, but I guess that's for the change. That's definitely for change. Okay, I don't know. Oh, and then I don't know why I appreciate it 100%. I don't know that stuff. And then you can see the net income there, and then they had 2 people there, end up with $70 per share. Does that kind of make sense, roughly, breaking it down for what a lemonade stand looks like?
Yeah.
Okay, now we're gonna do a fun one. Let's do this for a multi-billion-dollar publicly traded company. Okay, who can give me revenue or costs for Nike?
You want us to like Google it?
No. Like, don't give me the numbers. Just give me the things. To hear.
It costs money to get these famous athlete sponsors.
Okay, so endorsements / sponsorships. Is that a cog?
No.
Fantastic. Other things.
The cost of making a shoe or whatever product
Yes.
you're making.
Cost of shoes. What else does Nike make?
Clothes.
Clothes, shirts,
All that
sports
stuff.
equipment. I did a workout today with a Nike app. You know that Nike has like a workout app? They make money off of that. They sell workouts too. They sell a lot of things. They also sell like, what else is a weird thing that they sell? But yeah, I mean like other than that it's mostly sporting equipment. Cost of shoes, etc. We'll just put that down. Okay. What else goes in their costs? And is that a cog?
Yes.
Yes.
Cost of buying stores, having a physical location for shops.
Yes. Okay. How do you think they paid for that? I'm curious how you break that down. I have not been learning it. I don't know if folks want this candy, but like, if you do want candy, like, let me know if you really want it. How do you think they, like, what do you mean by paid for stores?
They rented probably, or
Like, I'm just curious. I'm wondering what you, like, so you walk into Dick's Sporting Goods.
sure.
How do you
Or
think
like
Nike?
the retail, they could have a Nike, don't they have a Nike, just Nike stores or no?
They do, yes. So like outlet stores,
Yeah.
like Nike outlet stores. Okay.
Oh, we were talking about like partnerships.
Yeah, like
with places.
Yeah, like how do you think the distribution of the Nike shoe works? Like you see it on the shelf in Dick's Sporting Goods. How do you think it got there?
Dick's Sporting Goods paid a certain amount for Nike for the shoes, so like fresh from the factory, hike up the price and sell to the consumer.
Yeah,
You mean like wholesale?
likely.
Yeah.
And you highlighted a number one thing in their revenue, wholesale sales. What do you think a tiny local like a sports store that needs Nike studs? Like, do you think they call up Joe Knight and they're like, or Phil Knight, and they're like, hey man, like we'd love to sell your shoes?
No.
Well, how do you think they get it then? Do you think you can go to Nike's website and be like, what's the wholesale price of a Nike shoe? I'm just curious. Like, how do you think that they end up?
Well, because that's a profitable business.
Yeah.
Like local sports store.
Well, I mean, like they're in local sports stores. The Nike makes money off of this. It's just a question of how.
So they have exclusive partnerships and contracts
Kind of. Yes, with
with.
there's another player here
Is
that's in between. The what?
Is shooting?
There is a distributor. Yes, that's key. Distributor relationships for here, and it probably costs Nike. Like initially, they pay what's called like slotting fees. They could have. They might not do it anymore because they're like the best brand in the world. But basically, you have to pay a distributor or the end retailer to put your product in a prominent location, put it like nice signs behind it. So like when you walk around to your grocery stores and you see the products that are like right at checkout, oftentimes those companies will be paying the grocery store to put their product right there. It isn't just because the grocery store makes money. That's a big revenue stream for grocery stores actually. But revenue here would be so sales to distributors, sort of wrapped into that. Okay, give me other ways that Nike makes money.
Online sales.
Online sales. When you see a college team wearing Nike, what do you think happened there?
Through like marketing.
Yeah, so who paid that? Did the college pay Nike, do you think?
Yeah.
No.
And Nike just
No.
gives us
That's a trend.
Nike does that all themselves. I mean, like, it's marketing, like, so that's a cost here, is how we, like, that goes sort of into here, we sort of broke it up, but like sponsoring colleges. There's a lot of hints kind of in this too.
Another cost is R&D.
R&D, yes. Tough question, is R&D a cog? No, that's correct, yeah. What?
I just asked what R&D was.
Oh, sorry, research and development, yeah. Does anyone have any other costs or thing? I think it's kind of an interesting thing with, yeah.
How they display their products,
Mhm.
employees.
Displays. Okay, do you think?
I actually have shipping and handling.
Yeah.
Is that a revenue or a cost? Because when you order online, you pay shipping and handling.
That's a really good question. It's both in a way. Companies can set shipping and handling for themselves, and it's part of their pricing strategy almost all the time. And oftentimes companies these days will take a loss on shipping. They used to make money on shipping until Amazon came around, and then it's really hard to make money on shipping. But you price shipping in order to incentivize people to like make their carts larger, for instance, or to it might be a competitive advantage to have low shipping or something like that, but it does go both. That's a really good question. Likely, also, there's so much shipping that happens behind the scenes here. Like, you have to ship raw goods from all over the world to your factory in wherever Nikes are made, and then you have to ship the finished product all the way to their distribution center, maybe in like Houston, Texas, like one of them, probably they have like 100 in the United States, and then they have to ship it to all the retailers there. You know, there's a lot of shipping costs that Nike definitely doesn't pay.
We talked about their relationship with like physical retailers, but I'm curious about like how the relationship works with other e-commerce retailers like Amazon, QVC, pretty much the same then?
Yeah. Third party e-commerce would be huge. So you can buy Nike on Amazon and make that. Those relationships are really complicated usually. There's like a lot of different ways that you can do it. Like Amazon might buy Nike at wholesale prices and then warehouse them and then sell them themselves, or Nike might ship to Amazon's customers who pay for it on Amazon, and then Amazon takes a cut. There's like a lot of different options for that. Anyway, we can kind of wrap this up and move through, but we kind of wanted to show, and another thing that we didn't even talk about with Nike is people. Like Nike has headquarters in like 6 countries or something. I mean, it's a massive massive, massive, massive company that has a lot of people behind it. So there's a really wide variety of costs, and we kind of scratched the surface on their revenues, but that's roughly what it looks like. So we saw the P&L for a lemonade stand, and this is the P&L for, effectively, for Nike as well. All these numbers are a lot bigger. It's the same idea. Like really, it's the exact same idea. And notice here is their gross profit. This is what they're talking about. They do a really good job. Does anyone, let's see, so effectively, that would be like 16 billion divided by 36 billion equals their gross margin, I guess, roughly. But yeah, so you can see it all sort of broken down. And all these costs, you guys named basically all of them. I'm trying to think. They have a lot of investments in like, they have to take income taxes and stuff. And then Claire's gonna walk you through the next two.
Okay, so Spotify. Which ones of you have Spotify? Yeah, that's kind of a lot. So you guys know how it works. We're basically going to do the same drill that we did previously. Just before that, to walk you through a little bit the pictures here. So you guys know Despacito is like the #1 song on Spotify. I think it's like 30 billion people downloaded it. So it's like Spotify has really, really grown. And then, okay, this one we'll get to when we do the cost and revenues. So, cost and revenues for Spotify.
Advertising is revenue.
Advertising for sure. Want me to write? Yeah.
Oh, sure. I guess I don't know.
Okay, ads. What else?
Yeah, so
Are ads a revenue?
they do both. So like,
It depends. Yeah, okay. In the case of Spotify, it would be both, right?
Spotify sells ad space, but then also
They market themselves.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Zach.
Developing the algorithms.
that'd be like people.
Yeah.
Licensing fees.
Yeah, for sure. That's huge. Okay, so this is like, it's good that you brought it up. It kind of goes with this picture here. So you guys know Jay-Z is not on Spotify. Like Beyonce's album Lemonade was also exclusively on their own music streaming service. Tidal, yeah, exactly. So it's just an example of like the music that you have access on Spotify. They do have to like pay the artists to have it there. So yeah, that's huge. Okay, what else? Yeah.
Subscriptions are revenue.
Yeah, for sure. How much is it the subscription to Spotify?
I have to pay like $1 for a few
$1?
months. Yeah.
I want to get
When
that.
you're on the trial, that's what
Yeah.
that is.
Okay, yeah.
I was like, sure, no problem.
I think it's $10, right?
Well, the student is like
It's
Comes with like Hulu or something.
Which is that a cost? With Hulu?
Yeah, that might be.
Yeah.
So that's sort of part of their business model. So Spotify has a freemium business model, which is basically that you can have access to Spotify for free, but it's like a limited access, and then you pay an extra fee to have the upgrade. So to have access to music without Wi-Fi, to have access to more music, to have like travel abroad with your music type of features. So what's the advantage of having a freemium model? Yeah.
Got them hooked.
Exactly, get him hooked. Once you've like tried it and you like it and you've paid $10 for 1 month, you're not gonna stop wanting music. So it makes your customers very loyal to have the freemium model. Okay, yeah.
Do you know the sessions where like Spotify will invite artists and they'll play Spotify exclusive sessions?
I
Is
should
that
have about it.
is that revenue or cost? So like essentially they'll say like on Saturday there's like a Spotify exclusive with this artist and they'll be performing live for Spotify. Would you know?
It's
if
probably
it's
both,
revenue
right?
or-
What if you were Spotify's CEO?
Well, I don't
What
know
would
if
you
Spotify is
charge?
bigger than Beyonce, but I feel like Spotify is bigger than like smaller artists.
So how could you make money off of that?
I don't know.
Well, I'm curious. Like, what would someone do to make? Like, say, all right, you have this opportunity. You have millions of people who are going to listen to this. Young artists want to get their name out there more, but you want a big artist because everyone's going to be interested in that. How do you make money off of this opportunity?
Do like what they do with concerts, like a header, right?
Could have a header, and then would you like explain to me how you make money off of that?
So you would say, like, I want to perform my banjo solo for Spotify. So I'd be like, hey, Spotify, whatever. So then I pay Spotify X amount, and then like Spotify will pay a large Beyonce and Jay-Z to perform like that. When like they're gonna cut their losses and having Beyonce and Jay-Z perform by having like be the header. But then they can have Beyonce perform so they can attract a larger.
Or they pay the artist, the artist pays to be there, but whatever album sales the artist gets from that session, Spotify will pay them for it.
Great idea.
Yeah.
So wait, throw around a couple more. Like this is a cool example of like how you can think about it differently. Yeah.
You could advertise it to all your members, but only actually allow your premium members to come on with the hope that more people would subscribe.
I think that's what they do. Is that what they do for him? I don't actually know. But that's a really good idea.
Yeah, cool. So the artist sessions could count for as a cost in your revenue if you do the strategy that you talked about. But yeah, that's a good point.
But then that's indicative of like a conversation that would happen at the highest level of Spotify. Like these are actual debates that would happen in these businesses, kind of like Nike. Like when we were talking about, do we think that a sports team pays to have Nike gear? You know, maybe they'd say, hey, honestly, like we make a lot of money when, you know, UNC wears Nike gear and everyone in North Carolina buys Nike stuff because they love UNC. But we don't make any money when Yale wears Nike gear. So we're gonna charge Yale because we have the best, you know, Nike gear out there, or best gear out there, and Yale's gonna pay us for that. And then you try that for a little bit and you realize that Yale's going to Adidas, and then you're like, oh no, we need them back, you know, because we actually lost revenue on that. Like, these are the types of debates that you would have at the highest level. So we just kind of start that.
Anything else? Costs, revenues?
They have a lot more costs, especially.
Yeah.
Sellers.
Yeah. That goes a little bit into people, so the people who like develop the ads. But yeah, for sure we can put it separately. Yeah, do you?
They need a lot of hardware just to be able to run all of these
Yeah.
algorithms.
That's
Yes.
huge.
Servers. I think that's like Amazon or Google, like that's like their number one cost driver right now. I think it might be Amazon.
It is Amazon.
Amazon
Yeah.
wasn't profitable before AWS.
Yeah. Isn't amazing? It's cool.
A lot of their success is also dependent on the App Store, so I'm pretty sure they pay like a significant fee to Apple.
Yeah, to be able to download Spotify. Sure.
Streaming costs a lot of money,
Mm-hmm.
just like that bandwidth.
Yeah.
What do you mean by that?
Just to send the songs to
The 35 million songs
yeah,
to
it
people.
costs a lot of money.
Funny stat on the bandwidth. I read that Netflix makes up 20% of the world's bandwidth. Like on a given hour, 20% of the bandwidth is occupied by Netflix, which is insane.
I don't know what you said last, but Spotify does offer Hulu for the student accounts, so that is a loss.
How do you, what do you, if you were on Spotify's team, how would you make money off of this opportunity?
I don't know. I mean, Hulu does have ads. You don't get a premium Hulu account. So
Hulu's a separate company, so like how would you?
I'll let someone else take that.
You get who likes having students kind of get hooked.
Yeah. Who needs like people more to subscribe between Hulu and Spotify?
Hulu.
Oh, yeah. Hulu needs so many more. Hulu kind of sucks right now. And so, how do you think Spotify came out of that ahead?
Probably charge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably have a huge deal of Hulu paying for that. There's another cool partnership that Spotify does that I'm wondering if people have.
Oh, Showtime?
Showtime? Oh, that's one I didn't even think of. Yeah, that's a great one. There's another one that I was like on the tip of my tongue with. Just think about a big place where like a lot of adults especially be listening to music. Like, you know, like, huh? Sure, maybe, sorry, I was thinking of like, okay, like you gotta get up in the morning, you like make your breakfast, and then you like need to get to work, so you get in.
Car.
Yeah. Have you seen how Waze and Spotify have this like partnership? Yeah, that's a pretty interesting one. Waze is owned by Google, so absolutely massive. But I honestly don't know there. I think that probably, like if you were on Spotify's side, and you're like, okay, Waze is already free, it's effectively marketing for us, so we're gonna pay Waze to have an exclusive partnership with us, and they can't use Apple in the same interface. So that's how we're gonna steal users from Waze. I'm just saying, like, these are all like sort of parts of this complex business. There's also there's a cost that for basically every single business that we haven't touched on. It's just like kind of a silly, stupid cost, but it's like an important one too. Like space.
Taxes?
Taxes, yeah. A lot of them don't pay those though. But like, yeah, space, rent, like that's huge. A lot of real estate. Cool.
Yeah, I think we've covered.
Yeah, that's
Very
awesome.
interesting.
We've worked through it.
Yeah, only one I can think of is when they get sued. I mean, it does happen that Spotify gets sued from time to cost. Okay, good.
Is that it for the revenue side though? Is it just as a subscription fee?
I honestly don't know a ton about Spotify revenue side. I'm curious what you guys know. But things like Hulu, that would add to the bottom line. There's probably something where like artists are paying Spotify to be moved up in their rankings or something like that. Like seriously, Spotify is selling attention effectively for like the reason that musicians would want to be on Spotify is because you can get greater exposure, and so there would be an incentive for people to try and pay to move up in the rankings or something, or like move on to their Spotify's playlists. I do wonder that about Spotify's playlists. Like those aren't just like designed around giving you a great playlist.
Yeah.
I'm sure that there's some like, you know, some record labels ensure that their songs end up on Spotify's like top hits. Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, ready for the next one? Okay, Warby Parker. You guys all know it. It's like one of our favorites to talk about because it's such a rich case. Okay, so can someone quickly give me the value proposition of Warby Parker? Yeah, please.
They sell glasses straight from the online retailer, and so there's no sort of third party where they jack up the prices.
Yeah, that's great. So Warby Parker is a perfect example of cutting out the middleman model. So who's the middleman that Warby Parker cut out?
Lens crafter.
Yeah, exactly. They were dominating the market. They were making it super expensive, and Warby Parker saw that. Those two guys here who were Warby students, they saw that, and now they cut out the middleman. And the advantage of doing that was that they were able to offer the classes for a lot cheaper. Okay, so now we can quickly run through the cost and revenues, and once again, like the pictures kind of like give you hints, so you guys can get out of it.
Yeah. This one especially. Photos are hints.
No, I thought you were gonna.
Like website management and management of their e-commerce space,
Yeah, sure.
as well as services.
Yeah, because this is like a big part of their selling process, right? They're selling directly to the consumer through this website, and then the customers are paying on the website. So that's a huge part of their business model. Okay, what else? Cost? There are like thousands of them. There's no like.
Well, I'm gonna go on a limb here and say that the revenue is people buying glasses
On their website.
on the website.
Which is key and different. Like that was Warby Parker's innovation was that. Like other glasses companies made money off of selling them to glasses shops who would then sell to the end customer. And Warby Parker's like, I think we can make something that's so cool that people are gonna just pay us for it. Which is actually like how they ended up being so successful.
Do they sell their glasses only on website?
Oh yeah, you probably are.
No. So they do have a couple like brick and mortar shops. I don't know if you guys have ever been into one of them. Like this is where I bought the glasses I have on my face. I thought it was very appropriate to wear them today. So the experience when you go in the Warby Parker shops is really, really good. Like they take good care of you, the displays are beautiful. You also pay like, they send you the check by email, and it's all very clean and crisp. So that's like a good part of the customer experience, the shops also. And the fact that they have so little of them makes them very, very productive and like, yeah.
So I don't get the difference of why no one could create this, one less crafter. I get the EpiPen thing, that had a patent. What?
Yeah. So the cool thing about Warby Parker actually was, so they had this idea of we can cut out the middleman and make glasses cheaper than anyone else by selling direct to consumer online. And this was back in 2011, and actually no one had really done this on the internet. People would go, you would shop for things on these big e-commerce sites. You go to eBay if you wanted to buy anything online. But they were the first ones to say, we think we can pull enough people to our website, and then they can buy it on here. But the really key part of it, and if you read this case, there's a great HBS case on Warby Parker, and their best innovation part was that Warby Parker was really cool. Their brand was amazing. They looked gorgeous. They were absolutely stunningly beautiful. Warby Parker has built this literary brand around it. The name Warby Parker, I might be wrong on the author, but I think it's from two different John Kerouac or Jack Kerouac books, and they made it very literary. When you walk walk into a store, you see the books on the shelves, it feels like this like amazing brand that's like gonna make you smarter by putting them on. And they had $95 was their price. They did a lot of pricing research behind this and realized that people saw $95 as both cheap but also high quality, and that was really, really key. They were always quality first, design, and then price. That was the way that they prioritized it. There are a couple other ways they innovated specifically here. Well, actually the retail space came later, like that was absolutely amazing. Fun fact, they are the second most efficient retail stores in the world after Apple stores by square footage. So Apple makes more money by square foot in all of their Apple stores, but Warby Parker is second. And it's like absolutely incredible when you go into it and like actually realize like all of the thought they put into it. But these two things are other big innovations that set them apart competitively. What are they, Kevin?
So Warby Parker was one of the first B Corps. This was kind of like a benefit corp, and they donated hair to people in developing countries because they noticed a very obvious correlation between people not being able to see and then their ability to get an education. And then the picture on the right is Warby Parker's like marketing and sales strategy, where they would ship a box of 5 or 6 glasses to you, then you would try them all on, pick the one that you thought fit the best, and then send the rest back.
Mm-hmm. And you could do that for free, which was key because the biggest hurdle to selling glasses online was that you didn't know what you were gonna look like in them. And so they fixed that problem by taking a huge risk. Like what if people would have started just keeping these glasses, you know?
Was the first thing you said a cost or revenue?
The B Corp, I'm pretty sure
The
it's
social aspect that they're giving out.
yeah, it's it definitely helps their brand, and in that sense, I think it contributes to their revenue. But it is, I think, it would still be considered a cost.
Exactly. So, good. Okay, what else? Cost, revenues, Warby Parker.
I mean, the cost is that special box shipping plan.
Yeah, so this is sort of try at home.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, no worries.
You're not even talking about
Glasses?
Glasses.
And this is a
Cost of goods.
yes.
There you go.
It sounds so annoying, but it's so good to just know the basic terminology.
Wait, would the buy a pair, give a pair be? Oh wait, no, it wouldn't be cost of goods. Never mind.
What?
Wait, no. I was thinking like would the buy a pair, give a pair be costly goods? Because it's like for every pair like you're giving. But
So
it's like not like
they
actually
kind of cheat. They don't actually give one pair for every pair purchased. They donate to a nonprofit that has a local market that like effectively they pay people in these communities that make glasses already to make glasses, but it's not a 1-to-1 ratio. They say this in marketing, but it's like it might even be better than that. Like they might be giving more glasses away than you think, but it's actually through a third-party nonprofit. Which is key, actually, a really good business innovation. Random thing was Tom's Shoes did this for shoes. I don't know if you know about Tom's Shoes, but they basically said we're gonna give away a pair of shoes for everyone that we sold. And it kind of went really badly for them because they were just dumping shoes on these communities that had systemic poverty that like was putting a band-aid on a much larger problem. You were causing more issues for the kids who were wearing these shoes that they weren't used to. They didn't understand they were putting all these local shoemakers out of business. And so they really did a terrible job of it. And then that's why Warby Parker looked at that example and said, we're gonna give to a local nonprofit instead and make them really successful.
Okay, great. Okay, so a couple other things that we talked about. Okay, so we talked about all of this. We talked about research and development of the classes. Okay, once again, we have the people with the salaries. Marketing also falls into the cost. We've already talked about all those. Is there anything else, like anything you guys thought about?
Yes. Prescription processing.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's huge.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Awesome. Cool thing about Warby Parker too is, do you know the company Harry's Razors? I think that's Jeff Rader. I don't know, but that guy was also started at Harry's, so he left Warby Parker and then started at Harry's Razors, basically to do the exact same thing. He said, we have this direct-to-consumer subscription business model. I know how to brand something really well. I'm going to go off and start my own business that does effectively the same thing, but for shaving. So kind of an interesting story. The Warby Parker thing is really worth reading. I could send it out if you wanted to. It's like 30 pages, but it's really fascinating, and they started it while they were business school students. It's just kind of a cool case study of they were literally sitting in class when their website went live, and they weren't like anticipating it going live right then, and then all of their phones started lighting up with orders, and they sold out of everything within an hour, and then went on back order for a really long time. And like, because they got this like splashy piece in Vogue, and it was like kind of a cool story, and it's definitely inspiring for student entrepreneurs. So hopefully you all do it.
There's also a podcast about it that I suggest everyone listen to. NPR, How I Built This, the best entrepreneurship podcast you'll ever
Yes.
find.
There's so many good.
There's
ones.
so many. It's
Yeah.
unbelievable.
It's really
And
cool.
they're the perfect length too for like going to the gym or just like folding laundry.
Yeah.
Highly recommend.
Yeah. My favorite one on that is Five Guys. The story behind Five Guys is so cool. I think it's amazing. All their French fries still come from the same individual farmer in like Idaho or whatever, and like they made him a millionaire, and he's this poor farmer, and they were like, we want to buy all our potatoes from you, and he's like, yeah, sure. Just really cool.
Also, if you want to listen to a particular one that might hit very close to home, the one for Honest Tea is on there, and Honest Tea was actually created from a student at SOM.
Or, yeah, well, I guess that was.
Professor and a student, they work
Yeah.
together. Yeah.
But Barry nailed on who. Maybe we could get Barry to come for a pitch day, actually. We probably could. He's kind of a quirky fellow.
Yeah.
He judges the lion.
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah. I actually remember that now. Yeah. Sweet. I did pitch in front of Barry. That was fun. Okay, cool. Then we wanted to briefly, so we covered kind of, incidentally, we haven't really talked about the names behind them. But so initially, like Nike is your like traditional B2C company eventually, and they like go through retail, etc. That they're like a very traditional company. That's why we started with them. And then we did Spotify, which is your subscription kind of like internet selling access is really what you're doing there. And then Warby, which is what's called direct to consumer, DTC or D2C. You'll see it both ways, but these are kind of different business models that you can choose from. There's like an infinite number of business models, and really you can create your own business model. That'd be pretty cool if you did, but we wanted to run through a couple others. Do you want to talk about marketplaces?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so marketplace is basically you're bringing together the demand and the supply. So a typical example of that is Uber. So there was demand, there was supply, you bring it together, and that once again sort of cuts out the middleman, reduces the cost, and you make money. Okay, so Up Counsel is a really cool thing. I don't know if you guys have heard about it. It's basically for legal services. So you go on the website and you're directly put in touch with a lawyer who like can take your case. And once again, it like cuts out the middleman of the law firm, which is great. Okay, let's you guys know it's like Uber, eBay, Thrive is for food. So once again, the supply, the demand is through internet, and Amazon, once again, typical example. Yeah.
I think that's about it. Marketplaces are an interesting business model. Some of you have talked about businesses that kind of hit at the marketplace model, and there's definitely some serious pros and cons to it. Partly because you have to manage two sides of a market. That's one thing that I kind of push against with marketplaces, is because you have to have both the supply and the demand to make it work, and it's super difficult. Kevin can tell you from experience, it's really hard to do. Kevin runs a marketplace business, so yeah, we can talk more about how to solve that problem later.
And then,
Sure, and then there's of course big ones right now are advertising models, which is really effectively where you're selling attention, I guess would be a good way to put it, or like you're selling eyeballs to companies to share on it. And like, you know what all of these are. Oh, does someone know why Snapchat's logo is a ghost? I'm just curious. Because it disappears. No, because the snap disappears. I thought that was so cool. I don't know. Anyway, never mind. Okay. But then you know, like Twitter makes money the same way, Google makes money effectively the same way, although they have a ton of other ways that they make money too. Reddit, same sort of deal. Facebook, Pinterest. Pinterest is kind of like the sad outlier in that group, I guess. And then does anyone know what this one is?
Crooked Media.
Crooked Media. Can you tell us a little about Crooked Media?
Crooked Media was started by a few guys that used to work in the Obama White House, and it started as a political podcast during the 2016 election campaign. But they've since built it out into a more general media company that has a podcast series, but also does other political related events.
Yeah, really cool company. And it started with just podcasts. Podcasts are awesome businesses if you can make them really successful. successful because they're really cheap and you can get your gross margin really high. Okay. And there's so many more. All of these have different business models. That's a law firm up there. This is a big pharmaceutical company. PayPal, of course, you know. Epic Games and Red Hat. These are two that I kind of wanted to highlight. Epic Games, who knows what Epic Games is? Fortnite. Yes, they made Fortnite. Epic Games started as this like smallish startup, but then they were in the news this week. Did anyone see them in the news this week?
They got bought out, I think.
They didn't get bought out, but they raised $1.5 billion at a $14 billion valuation. Like they are massive, and that was originally a free game. You know, like it's pretty cool how they figured out how to make money off of it. Red Hat is a funny, nerdy, wonky one that also was in the news this week. Did anyone see Red Hat in the news?
They got
Yeah.
bought.
Is this Red Dead Redemption?
No, not quite, not in video game space.
IBM.
IBM bought them. Yes, for how much?
33 billion?
$34 billion. Yeah, so it's actually the biggest acquisition IBM has made in their history. IBM is 101 or 102 years old, really old company. But they bought Red Hat. Red Hat makes like Linux. Is it Linux or Linux?
Yeah.
Linux, thank you. I do not do the beat boop burn. But they make like a lot of these free like developing services. And of course you have your standard bank, WeWork. Does anyone know how WeWork makes money? We've talked about them a couple of times in the past. They charge businesses subscriptions to use their space. Effectively what they do. Berkshire Hathaway, you know Warren Buffett. And then BCG, you all might work there someday. Anyway, there's a ton of different options, and all of these have their pros and cons, and it's really important for you all to think about them as you approach businesses. All right, now we're going to